For us to go viral, Kevin Durant sitting out this season as he recovers from a torn Achilles. However, that hasn't stopped him from dropping some heat on Twitter. His former teammate, Kendrick Perkins, said that Russ was the greatest player in Thunder history. Perk also tweeted, quote, KD lost in the second round without Russ when I was there. So what does that mean? Well, KD obviously replied, saying, quote, yeah, and our starting center averaged a whopping 2 and 3 during that series. You played hard, though, champ. LOL. So Perk upped the ante, saying, you did the weakest move in NBA history, up on a team 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals, and then you go join them the following season. Hard a champion right there. Well, KD finally said, weak is starting at center, playing real minutes with no production. Should have worked on your skills as much as I did. Nick, you were beyond entertained by this back and forth.
Wow. Well, listen, color me less than shocked that on the night that Russell Westbrook gets the standing ovation, gets the tribute video from the Oklahoma City Thunder, that Kevin Durant somehow finds his way to get involved in the conversation. Not that KD's got any misgivings about how that ended. Not that KD's got any insecurities whatsoever about how much credit he actually gets for those 2 titles in Golden State. And KD and Perk, once upon a time, not that long ago, appeared to be quite tight. And now, I mean, that bridge is torched. It's burnt. So listen, KD still, even from the sidelines,
that's what I was about to say,
man. He's got the time.
He's not shooting shots on the court, but he's shooting his shot on Twitter, man. I mean, the last 48 hours going back and forth with a local radio host here in New York City.
Brandon Tierney went back at him.
And then Kendrick Perkins, man. KD is. You can say whatever you want about him, but he's entertaining on social media. He's going to give you something to talk about.
Hey, listen, I will give him the same advice that I've given him for the last 3 years. Stop reading your mentions. You are too famous, you are too talked about, you're too successful to read your mentions.
What drives him. I think that's what he needs.
Does it really matter if he's one of the best basketball players on the planet?
It matters to him. Somehow it matters to him.
No, does it really matter whether or not he's on it, though?
Well,
no, I just feel like he'd be happier.
He feeds off it.
I'm here for it, Jenna. I want to see it.
Of course.
I enjoy it. It's entertainment for me.
So does Nick. You want to see it, even though it bothers the heck out of you.
I mean, it's something. I'll tell you this much, though. KD don't want that smoke with Perk.
No.
Not
But he wasn't wrong what he said about Perk playing real minutes.
Perk wasn't wrong neither. Perk wasn't wrong neither.
All right, stories to start your morning, sponsored by Sprint. Switch today. Joel Embiid will undergo surgery today to repair a torn ligament in his left hand. He'll be reevaluated in a week or 2. Nick, how serious is this for the Sixers?
Oh, it's serious now. I mean, he's their best player, and I understand the silver lining is you'll get to see what Ben Simmons looks like without Joel Embiid on the court. And possibly, I know some Sixer fans would like to know what Ben Simmons could fetch in a trade. He could up that trade value because the Simmons-Embiid combo doesn't quite fit offensively. But Canty, you mentioned it during the break. They're the 5 seed right now in the Eastern Conference with a healthy Joel Embiid. They got to catch up to Boston, who they beat last night. They got to catch up to Miami. They're not the 5 seed by a half game. They're 4 games back of the Miami Heat. So this is a big deal for Philadelphia being without their best player for at least a couple weeks.
Yeah, Philadelphia has been screaming trust the process for some years now, and it just seems like the 2 big pieces that they got out of all that tanking haven't necessarily played well together. And when you look at a wide open Eastern Conference, outside of the Milwaukee Bucks, there is no dominant team. We thought that this would be the year that the Sixers assert themselves. Now, I know you're going to lose a little bit on the defensive end with not having Joel Embiid, but offensively, like you said, you're probably going to get the best version of Ben Simmons. And then, oh, by the way, they do have Al Horford, who can play some minutes at the center position. So we'll see what Brett Brown comes up with. But, again, if you're going to miss Joel Embiid, I'd rather have it on this side of the All-Star break rather than going down the stretch run.
Brett Brown's got to do a better job with this team as well.
On to the NFL playoffs now. Vikings taking on the Niners in San Francisco tomorrow. Kirk Cousins might be without Adam Thielen, who's questionable after needing stitches on his ankle. Nick, and the Vikings win without Thielen?
No, absolutely not. I'm not saying they absolutely can't win this game, but if we find out on Saturday afternoon, evening, that Adam Thielen's not playing, they're cooked. They need to be full go to have a chance to beat the most rested, best record in the NFC, best team. This was a really, really fun game. You saw Russ get the standing ovation and video tribute, and then you saw the surging Thunder who have been after starting, 11-17, 11-2 in their last 13, they get a big win.
Ooh, T-Wolves Blazers. Jarrett Culver driving to the cup canny. Nice one-handed hammer over Kent Bazemore.
Texas Tech's own Jarrett Culver. That is a nice finish at the rim right there. Look out below. That's a huge dunk right there. Got another guy on the poster.
Lose 2 in the NCAA tournament.
Exactly.
Sixers
UVA, baby.
Throw it in there.
Al Horford tapping it back to Josh Richardson.
Those surging Celtics, this is a bad loss. You got no Joel Embiid for Philly. You have a huge lead early, and you end up blowing the basketball game. And by the way, Philly now, season-long tiebreaker has been decided. If these two teams finish with a better record in the battle for the 2 seed, Philly gets it.
Ouch. College basketball, Texas Rio Grande against UMKC, Jordan Jackson.
Oh, no.
That is a beautiful finish. And that guy on defense knows better than the jump, Jenna.
Didn't even try.
He had no shot. Look at this on the break.
What?
He had no shot at being able to slow him down. Why would you jump when you know nothing good is going to happen?
Heady play from the UMKC defender. UMKC obviously stands for University of Missouri, Kansas City.
There you go.
A little hometown university. Okay. Oh, speaking of my hometown,
so usually get dunked.
How about this?
Whoa. Texans, Chiefs squaring off, Nick, in KC on Sunday. Bet you didn't know that. These two teams last met in October, with Deshaun and the Texans getting the better of Mahomes and KC. This time around, the Chiefs are well-rested, coming off a bye, while the Texans had to scrape by last week in overtime in order to move on. Kenny, any chance Houston can beat Kansas City again?
No shot.
None.
Because if you look at the first matchup, Houston won that game by being able to run the football. It ran up almost 200 yards rushing between Carlos Hyde and Deshaun Watson. That defense is much improved since they met in Week 6. And if you look at the last month of the season, since Week 11, you're talking about having the 9th-ranked total defense in the National Football League, but number 1 in some key statistical categories. So I just look at this defense, knowing that it was going to take some time for Steve Spagnuolo to implement his scheme. You realize that these guys are going to continue to improve the more football they play. So I look at this Kansas City Chiefs defense as being a much different defense than Deshaun Watson saw earlier in the season. And for that reason, coupled with the fact that Andy Reid is money after bye weeks and Bill O'Brien might be the worst coach left in the playoff field, I give a huge edge to the Chiefs.
Here's what I do with that Week 6 matchup. I ball it up and I throw it away because it doesn't matter at all.
My notes.
The Week 6 matchup, the Chiefs did not have their starting left tackle. They did not have their starting left guard. They did not have their best defensive player, Chris Jones. They did not have their second-best wide receiver, Sammy Watkins. And Patrick Mahomes went into the game with a banged-up ankle, and during the game, after being on fire early, got the ankle rolled up on again, and then his effectiveness was totally limited. Despite all that, the Chiefs had a big lead and were en route to increasing that lead when a bizarre play happened where Patrick Mahomes sees a flag thrown, thinks he has a free play, so he throws into double coverage in the end zone. The ball is picked off. The referees then get together and say, that flag we threw, actually, we didn't mean to throw it. So he thought he had a free play, tried to take advantage of it. That flipped the game at one point, and then also there was a sack fumble with 10 seconds left in the half that led to points for Houston. Despite all that, Kansas City had a chance to win the football game. They just couldn't close it. But your point on the defensive turnaround is important. Also, prior even to Week 11, since this game in Week 6, the Chiefs have played one bad game, the Titans game. And that wasn't even a bad game. It was a bad final 5 minutes of the game where they gagged it away. Since then, they have played Green Bay to 1 score without Patrick Mahomes. They've beaten Minnesota without Patrick Mahomes. They went to New England and beat the New England Patriots as the Patriots were on their descent down. The Chiefs right now, you guys joke about it, it's true. I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life. This is the most well-balanced, the most dangerous Chiefs team of my lifetime. We have had offenses in Kansas City as good or better than this one, last year most notably, but there was also an offense led by Trent Green that was 13-3, Priest Holmes, you had Hall of Fame offensive linemen, but they did not have defenses. In the 90s, you had some spectacular defenses led by Derek Thomas and Neil Smith, but you did not have the offenses to go along with it. Kansas City Chiefs have not since Lynn Dawson led them to Super Bowl IV with Bobby Bell and Willie Lanier and the great defenders behind them. They have not had a team that you could argue has a top-flight offense and a top-flight defense. And I know people don't want to acknowledge the Chiefs have a top-flight defense, but over the course of the season, they're top 10 in every major statistical category. They get to the opposing quarterback, they force turnovers, and the pass defense has been exceptional the final third of the season. Conversely, Canty, you mentioned the Texans' coaching issues. I agree with you wholeheartedly. The other issue for the Texans is this. They have as bad of a secondary as any team in the postseason. Coming to Arrowhead against a healthy Chiefs passing attack, I don't think Houston's going to be able to hold them under 30. So are you going to go to Arrowhead against the defense playing like this and score 34, score 35? I don't think you are, and I think the coaching mismatch is an enormous one as well. So we're in lockstep on this. I would be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl. Baltimore is a tough team.
Yes.
And if Baltimore loses, Tennessee, as I mentioned, already beat the Chiefs. But I would be shocked if the Chiefs lose this football game, even knowing how many times the Chiefs have had home playoff games only to end in horrifying defeat.
So give me a way the Texans can do it. How do the Texans pull this off if they are going to even come up with a game plan to stop this Chiefs team?
Well, I think it's got to look similar to what it looked like in Week 6. You're going to have to control time of possession. The Texans had the ball 40 minutes in that game, so I think they're going to have to play keep away a little bit with that Kansas City Chiefs offense, just because you know that the Kansas City Chiefs weapons are too much for your defense, especially the guys on the back end, to be able to match up with. So I think that has to be a big part of your formula, leaning on Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. And Duke Johnson could be the X factor in this game for the Texans as a receiver out of the backfield. That's an area where the Kansas City Chiefs defense isn't very good. So I think that that's an opportunity for Deshaun Watson to exploit. But it's going to have to look a lot like the second half of the wild card game against the Bills and overtime, where Deshaun Watson just takes over. I think Bill O'Brien has got to get him involved in